Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. This Thursday marks 2 years since the release of the final report of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls on June 3rd, 2019. I wish to honor the memory of women, girls, 2SLBGTQIA+ people who have been lost, and to acknowledge the pain felt by their families and their communities. I also want to acknowledge that June is Indigenous History Month. This is an opportunity for all of us to listen to the stories of Indigenous Manitobans, to learn about their accomplishments and their contributions to Canada, and to learn about the challenges and tragedies they faced, from residential schools to the current crisis, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The MMIWG final report listed 231 calls for justice, which were directed to governments, to businesses, and to all Canadians. It will take action from all of us to better protect Indigenous women and girls and 2SLGBTQIA+ persons, and to advance reconciliation in Manitoba and Canada. In Manitoba, we're working closely with First Nation, Métis, and the Inuit partners to develop and implement improved protections for Manitoba's Indigenous women, girls, and 2SLGBTQIA+ people. In February 2020, Manitoba established a new gender-based violence committee cabinet. This cabinet committee takes a whole of government approach to coordinate policies, legislation, and initiatives aimed at addressing intimate partner and sexual violence. We can see the results of this work in Budget 2021, which invested in protecting Manitobans and advancing reconciliation. I was proud to work with the Minister of Justice and the Minister responsible for the status of women to invest over $800,000 in new supports for victims and the families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. This is one example of how government departments working together to address issues raised in the MMIWG report, and an example of the kind of coordination that was previously missing from government. This is the path we must continue on, and we will continue on, to keep making progress on protecting our fellow Manitobans. We recognize that the calls for justice call for meaningful engagement. The voices of survivors and families must be heard. We will work together with Indigenous-led organizations to develop and implement solutions that will save lives. We look forward to the establishment of regular meetings with federal, provincial, and territorial partners that specifically address MMIWG issues. This kind of intergovernment cooperation is long overdue. By combining our efforts and focusing our actions, we will build safer communities for all Indigenous women and girls, men and boys, and Two-Spirit people. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.